Hello, everyone at Estevão Lives. If you like the video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel.
Fauci.
Oh, doctor.
Under investigation by state AGs. This is an Outkick story. 19 state attorney generals, led by South Carolina AG Alan Wilson, sent a letter to Congress stating their intent to hold Dr. Anthony Fauci accountable at the state level despite President Joe Biden's preemptive pardon. The letter says, although former President Biden attempted to shield potential bad actors like Dr. Anthony Fauci from accountability via preemptive pardons, we are confident that state laws may provide a means to hold actors accountable for their misconduct. They requested that Congress share any findings of violations of state laws so they can evaluate state-level courses of action. The AGs accused Fauci of suppressing discussions about the lab leak theory and misleading the public on COVID vaccine risk, which they say contributed to an erosion of trust in health institutions. They wrote, Dr. Fauci led a deliberate campaign to stifle the voices of premier health scholars regarding the lack of adequate testing of vaccines, which kept the public from knowing about risks like myocarditis and pericarditis among young adult males, the verified increased risk of blood clots in women, and the long-term effects vaccines had on fertility. Glenn, will anything happen to Fauci?
Yes.
Please.
And I did not believe this. I mean, a year into it, I did a two-night special on just the stuff that we could find in public spaces that showed the smoking guns everywhere. Now we have the actual data. Now we have a preponderance of evidence, and he's backdated it to 2014. For very specific reasons. This guy has been breaking the law and becoming his own god, and he has to go to jail. And I never thought he would, but under Trump, it's not going to be vengeance. It's not going to be, repaying his enemies. They are looking for the truth between Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Bhattacharya. They're going to unravel this thing, and he's going to jail. And it will be because of the states. They have a right and a duty to do it.
Vinny.
I'm Glenn. Like I have a list of the top 3 people that I just despise. As hard as is being a Christian and trying to pray, and I actually have to pray for these people. Yeah. That's the hardest thing I think about being a Christian.
Yeah.
I have to pray that they get their souls intact because at one point they're going to be judged. But he's at the top, and Alejandro Mayorkas have always been at the top, and Pat knows this. He pushed these lies, and like I saw a meme. Imagine getting medical advice from a doctor that needs a pardon for the medical advice that he gave you.
Yes.
That's why all these freaking Democrats, all these people, but do you remember, Glenn, they would put those pictures of him in front of their lawns? Like they would worship this demon.
He was the golden calf.
He was the golden calf. And people are like, well, Trump was, he's been around for what, 7 presidents? But while this is all going on, Pat, Doge announced, and Elon, that in the past 48 hours, HHS canceled 62 contracts with $182 million, and one of them was, ready for spending, $168,000 contract for an Anthony Fauci exhibit at the NIH museum. They're like,
he's a god.
It's clear that the truth about Anthony Fauci is finally coming out to light. For years, Anthony Fauci was treated as untouchable authority, but now investigations show that Anthony Fauci may have lied to Congress and hiding crucial information about the pandemic. This is something that cannot ignore it.
That's going down. And then the one more thing that I saw, it was Lauren Boebert was having a House Oversight Committee hearing, and they questioned Justin Goodman. He's a senior vice president at the White Coat Waste Project about the National Institute NIH funding research that involves, they were implanting tissue from aborted fetuses into lab animals, so abortions. That's why they're so pro-abortion. He confirmed that such studies have been funded by the NIH, specifically mentioning Dr. Fauci's NIH allergy and infectious disease. That's
He's
what
a
he
monster.
was doing. That's what he was doing. Pat, you want to hear this clip?
Yeah, of course.
This is it.
Implant aborted baby parts into lab animals. Have you heard of that sort of research?
Yeah, we did an analysis a few years ago showing that over 90% of experiments with using human fetal tissue and putting them involved animals were funded by Fauci's NIAID.
Do you know where they're getting the aborted human fetal tissue?
Universities?
A lot of it is happening at colleges and
Oh, weird.
universities that have affiliated hospitals that perform that
Pro-abortion, kill your
Madam
babies,
Chair,
because
I
guess
think
what?
we
We
need to
need to
look into
use
that
them
as
for
well.
experiments on animals.
And what is the and honestly, when you look at Fauci and what he was starting to do in 2014, what he really started it with Dick Cheney right after 9/11, almost all of these, there is no medical reason to do these experiments. They have not made medicine better. They're not making us safer. In fact, the opposite. They are making things much, much more dangerous in the world. Where is the medical evidence that any of this was good and useful? You can't even make that argument.
Zero. And the only comfort that I could have, Glenn, and I was thinking about this yesterday, for the rest, because they took away his security detail. He's finished. He has to pay for his own security, which is good. For the rest of his life, Glenn, anytime he looks out of a window or he's outside in public, he's always going to be like this. At least I have that comfort, because how many people's lives he ruined, how many kids' lives have been ruined, and how many people freaking died that they couldn't go to their grandfathers' and grandparents' funerals because that scumbag knowingly knew what he was doing.
Well, I hope that nothing happens to him except he goes to jail.
No, I want him in prison for the rest of his life, but he's going to be nervous everywhere he goes for the rest of his life.
Well,
Tom.
yeah, when everybody on social media that says, oh, he was pardoned. Well, let me give you a constitutional lesson. No offense. Article 2 of the Constitution points out that the president can grant reprieves and pardons for crimes against the United States. And there are multiple precedents where the state attorney generals banded together. They banded together against Google and price fixing until it was taken up to the Southern District of New York by the federal government. So the states have the purview and the ability, as well as to work in parallel. Really, Vinny, so you're in Arizona, I'm in New Mexico, and we have a hoodlum who's committed crimes in both and says, wait a minute, our indictment is word for word the same as your indictment. Tell you what, we'll wait for you, but as soon as you're done, then we're going to try them here. I'll give you an example. You have, the hashtag Me Too. Harvey Weinstein. He was tried where? In New York. And who stood down and waited for the New York case? California. But as soon as it was done, who had to have his old wrinkled butt put on a plane and went to trial in California?
Harvey.
Guess what? Ladies and gentlemen, that's what you're seeing. And I just wanted to back up a little bit because there's a lot of comments that are happening and there's a lot of stuff on social media. Biden pardoned him. No, not against state crimes. And you've seen it with Weinstein, and that's what we're going to see here.
I'm just going to sort of be the rain on this Fauci going to jail parade. The chances, I think, of Anthony Fauci going to jail are less than 1%. Why would I think that? Who the hell we've ever seen go to jail for something like this?
Who the hell's ever seen what we've seen in the last 21 days?
Sure, I understand.
Yeah, very good
However,
point.
they just came out 2 weeks ago and they said, yeah, by the way, breaking news, straight up, it did come from a lab leak.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing happened. China, but we're about to have the 5-year anniversary of COVID, like in a couple weeks. 5-year anniversary. Has China paid anything? Are we having any accountability?
Look at Missouri. The Missouri AG just sued China. China didn't even show up to defend itself.
Respect to the great state of Missouri.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere,
But
suing
they
China.
are suing him.
Okay, good.
They're suing China for billions and billions of dollars, which means if they win this case, they can just take all the Chinese land out of America.
That's a big if. Who knows? I'm rooting for America here now, guys. However, I just don't see any accountability here. By the way, throwing Fauci in jail. Fauci's 185 years old. How old is Fauci? 85?
Look good. Let him die in jail.
Okay, I mean, what do you think is going to happen? You think he's going to just rot in prison for about 6 months?
I hope so.
84 years
Yeah,
old.
he deserves it. That's what Adam. That's what I want. Is accountability.
I'm not saying that he does or he doesn't. What I'm saying is the likelihood of Fauci spending the rest of his life in jail, knowing what we know, I just don't see it. I don't see it happening.
Knowing what, I would absolutely agree with you. Before January 18th of this year, I would have absolutely agreed with you. But what happened when the president was elected? You are in a new reality. New reality. We have yet to see it pay off with somebody going to jail. But I know Kash Patel. I know Pam Bondi. These guys are not going to screw around. They're not. Donald Trump is not going to screw around. I've never seen a president. Do you know he made sticky notes every time he went off a stage and he had a promise that he made? He wrote it on a sticky note, and he put those all on a wall. And then when he was elected, he went through and said, this one. He's just checking them all off. He's going to do it.
Has Trump made any public comments recently about Fauci at all?
I don't think he has time. He's not even worried about it. He's going to let them deal with it. He's going to let.
You don't
Cash
think?
But listen, let me tell you what's the
handle
biggest
it?
comment. You know what's the biggest comment
What's
he's
that,
made?
sir?
The biggest comment he's made is, my recommendation for who should run the Department of HHS is Bobby Kennedy. That's the biggest
Yes.
comment. Do you know who in America has investigated Fauci more than RFK? Nobody.
Yep.
Can you imagine, out of all the people that are going to go after you, is the guy that wrote a book that sold millions of copies, he puts him in charge to go after you? Yeah, I mean, he
Since the beginning of the COVID-19 crisis, Anthony Fauci has been at the center of the most controversial decisions. Now, with new evidence, it is increasingly evident that Anthony Fauci funded dangerous research, including the infamous gain-of-function experiments at the Wuhan lab. If this is confirmed, Anthony Fauci will be directly responsible for one of the greatest tragedies in recent history. Even so, Anthony Fauci continues to deny any involvement, trying to escape the accusations. Trump has always warned about the dangers of blindly trusting Anthony Fauci. During his presidency, Trump frequently clashed with Anthony Fauci because he knew something was wrong. Now, official documents show that Trump was right all along. If Trump had been listened to earlier, perhaps millions of lives could have been saved. Trump wanted transparency, while Anthony Fauci worked behind the scenes to hide the truth. Patrick Bet-David has also been exposing Anthony Fauci for a long time. Patrick Bet-David understands the importance of freedom of information and has always questioned the decisions made by Anthony Fauci during the pandemic. On Patrick Bet-David's shows, several experts have pointed out inconsistencies in Anthony Fauci's statements. Patrick Bet-David, like Trump, believes that Anthony Fauci must be held accountable for his actions.